Hello once again everyone and welcome back to another vlog. Now, in a previous vlog, which I have not uploaded yet but will shortly do so, I talked about Assassin's Creed 4 and mentioned that I wanted to talk about the Xmen, which basically has been a recent obsession for me on Netflix. I noticed they had the animated version of the Xmen from 92 till 94. I believe they've not got season 4 and 5, which obviously were after that, and basically I vaguely remember watching some of that in my childhood. Obviously I was born in 93, so but I think they run either reruns or it might have been a different animated Xmen that was on, but I remember the sort of character designs of them, so I basically like, well, Xmen sounds decent enough, so I started watching it. First couple episodes I was like, the animation's kind of not poop, but sort of not the best thing in the world kind of deal, of me being used to the modern day animation from video games and other animated films that are just really nice and clean and stuff, and this nice stuff not being like proper HD quality kind of deal, and a bit of just not as good as it is today. But I just stuck with it, pushed past that, and got more and more into it, basically because they had pretty decent voice acting-ish, and but it's more the fact that it had really interesting storylines of dealing with stuff like the Sentinel program and Magneto, and then introducing new villains that I've not come across, like Apocalypse in the first season. He was kind of in it for a brief amount of time, and they introduced me to other X-Men, like never encountered Jubilee before, or at least I don't remember Jubilee, and I was like, oh yeah, that person's pretty cool. And basically the plot is they introduced Jubilee in the first episode as this female mutant who's probably around 14, 15, who's just basically discovering her powers and decides to go to Xavier's school. You don't really see any of the school elements within basically this series like you do in the movies and other things, but so she's like learning how to deal with her powers, which is basically she shoots sort of firework type stuff out of her hands. It's kind of cool, but not the best power in the world. So yeah, she sort of joins the X-Men teams, and she's slowly training to become an X-Men kind of deal. And then you get to encounter other X-Men like Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, Jean Grey, Beast, Rogue, who is an actual X-Men and not a pussy ass bitch like she was in the films, and Gambit, and then there's this guy called Morph, who you meet in the first two episodes. Well, like the first episode / second episode, he sort of gets left behind because the Sentinels come and attack them, so they leave him behind. And Morph's basically the male version of Mystique, who's able to change his body into different people, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there's that, and basically they venture off and do all the X-Men stuff, like going against Magneto, which he tries to go against humans. They investigate different things, like there was the cure, which basically is meant to cure mutants, but it's actually employed by Apocalypse to get slaves, and he then typically gets slaves from one billionaire guy who becomes Archangel, because he's basically the billionaire guy still has wings, and you can see him in Last Stand as the son of a senator, I believe, but yeah, he's actually like in this, he's a billionaire with wings, and he's the first one to get transformed into a slave of Apocalypse and becomes Archangel, or one of the four horsemen of death, and then he gets 3 other mutants and turns them into the Horsemen of Pestilence, Horsemen of famine and war, and he uses these guys to go against people and stuff, and they have to sort out that. And then there's another plot line where it's Days of Future Past. If you know, the recent Xmen film was based on Days of Future Past, but instead of Wolverine going back in time, this is a guy called Bishop who becomes a time traveler and goes back in time to stop prevent the assassination of Senator Kelly, not Trask, who obviously is the person who's behind the, well, invents the Sentinel program and stuff. So yeah, Mystique tries to kill Kelly on the orders of Apocalypse, kind of deal, because she's sort of in Apocalypse's thing. At first, you know, it sort of seems that Apocalypse is actually like an alien type creature, because you never see him not in his human form, or he seems a lot more powerful than any mutant before him, kind of deal. He's like super powerful, he's indestructible, he can't be damaged by any of the X-Men powers at all, kind of deal, which is very, very interesting. And he has ships and stuff, which are like proper spaceships, not the X-Men Black Wind kind of stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed season 1, and then season 2 had a bit of like a more of a storyline running for it with who is it? Sinister, that's it. This guy called Sinister, who's, again, he's introduced as a villain. He sort of basically brings Morph back to life and embeds like a control trip into him, which makes him evil and seeks for vengeance against the X-Men, and he sends Magneto and Xavier to the Savage Lands, basically, which is basically this tropical rainforest in the Arctic, like, kind of deal. It's a temple base, and Magneto's been there before, made a citadel and made some mutants there, kind of deal. But yeah, he sends them off, and then obviously he tries to kill the other mutants, and Sinister wants Cyclops and Jean to sort of breed and then make a race of super mutants so he can take over the world. And that's the plot of the first couple episodes. And then they're dealing with other things, like it goes into a bit of backstory of each character. Like each character gets like a little an episode which goes into some backstory. So you see Storm go to Africa, where her son, which is not, it's basically, she didn't pop him out, but she helped start his saved his life once he was born, and so became mother, be taken over by something king, like the Dark King or something like that. Basically this bad guy who was in her past made her steal stuff and kind of and wants to take over her body to get her power, but takes over her son body after he's been escaping these this psycho this realm, basically, where he was forced into by Xavier, takes over his son's body, and his son's body is he's this mutant who's really quick, like Quicksilver. But basically, so they deal with that kind of deal and make sure this king guy goes back into the realm where he was locked up. And then you've got the backstory for like Gambit, who he was part of the Thieves Guild, and these thieves and assassins fight each other, and every 10 years they have to give a tribute to this unknown mutant / god, I don't know, kind of deal. And basically who's going to marry the assassins, trying to bring the thieves and assassins still together, but that doesn't work. So he leaves, and basically this woman, the person who's going to marry, brings him back and sort of fucks him over and sort of tries to fuck over the Thieves Guild, but doesn't, kind of deal. And that was very interesting. You got the backstory, or some of the backstory of Rogue, where you learn that she was briefly raised by Mystique and took the powers from Miss Marvel, So basically because obviously Rogue's power is she absorbs people's energy, and if they're mutant she absorbs their mutant power after touching them, but she holds on to Miss Marvel for a very long time, and super soon she always has a power, so she's super strong and can fly, always kind of deal, which is pretty cool, and basically makes Miss Marvel paralyzed and fairly brain dead, and takes on into the persona of Miss Marvel, which is locked away in the mind, and basically Miss Marvel tries to get out and control her body at some point, kind of deal. So that's very interesting. You get some more backstory of Wolverine and going against Sabretooth and stuff like that, and you see Colossus come in every so often. Like he was in the first season briefly, and then in the second season they go against Omega Red, as the Russians let Omega Red out of his cryogenic chamber after 25 years. Basically, Omega Red's like a weapon that cannot be damaged by anything. He's pretty badass, but he can be frozen, so he's like he can be defeated, but he cannot be destroyed. So the Russians are like losing the Soviet Union Empire. People split off, including Colossus's country. So they only use Omega Red to basically retake all the countries, like probably Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and stuff like that. Basically, countries that are split off from Russia to bring them back into the fold. But obviously, it backfires because Omega Red cannot be controlled. But the Xmen come in and save the day, kind of deal. You also briefly see Apocalypse again as he tries to basically create this plague, which affects humans at first, but if it gets into mutants, basically it will start killing everyone and stuff. And Bishop comes back to stop that, and then the other guy who's further in the future comes back to prevent Bishop from doing that, because his future would be destroyed if this plague doesn't exist, kind of deal. This was a very interesting kind of plotline, that one was. So yeah, and then the third season basically was spent partially around the Phoenix. So we had the Phoenix saga for like 5 episodes, which basically dealt with basically the Phoenix is the guardian of a crystal that would destroy the galaxy, well, the universe, and this emperor guy of the Shi'og empire wants to control the crystal. So the Guardian takes over Jean Grey's body to prevent him from doing that, and it's the whole thing of battle, and eventually they stop it, and the Guardian takes the crystal and flies it into the sun, kind of deal. And then later on, after a few more episodes, like briefly far back into the Savage Lands, and the Obsession episode where Archangel tries to destroy Apocalypse, but obviously he's unable to, but they do defeat him and send him back into space, kind of deal. And this is where you see him back in human form of an old man, which is very interesting. So he obviously is a mutant, but yeah, and it goes to the Dark Phoenix, where she's still possessing Jean's body and likes the sensations of Jean's body, and you meet the Inner Circle, which is like Frost and not Stark, Sebastian person, you know, from basically the First Class. The two main, like the Frost woman is the telepath who can sort of make her body into diamonds, and Sebastian is the guy who absorbs energy into him. So yeah, they are members. Well, he's the leader of the Inner Circle, and she's a member of the Inner Circle. And you get a couple of guys who's like an illusionist, a cyborg, and some guy who sort of controls electricity-ish. I don't know. But yeah, and they try and control the Dark Phoenix, and eventually they can't, and they eventually manage to get the Dark Phoenix out of Jean Grey's body. Covers a bit more of the other stories, like introducing Nightcrawler briefly in one episode and stuff like that, and then the last episode was Weapon X, basically goes into some more backstory of Wolverine, which is pretty interesting. You get to meet other people, and then there was the episode which they dealt with X Factor, which had who's it? Quicksilver, another person who's in first class. What's his name? I forget his name, but you know, you see people from the first class basically. Havoc, that's it. He's the leader of the X Factor team. And it was really enjoyable and highly recommend it. It's basically opened my eyes to why people judged the third movie to be terrible because of the cure and all the Phoenix stuff. It's just like, that's not the way. It's kind of the way that the Dark Phoenix is-ish in the Dark Phoenix thing, but you know, it's like, no, there's a whole lot more to the Phoenix than this, and they didn't really explain it properly. But yeah, I really enjoyed it and I highly recommend it. If you've got Netflix, you'll probably be able to watch it, because that's why I'm watching it. Do you want to do another Sid Discusses on probably Archer, because I finished watching Archer yesterday, the whole sort of Archer Vice, which was the latest season, which is very enjoyable. But yeah, I'll leave that until another video, because this has been going on for a while. So yeah, really enjoyed the Xmen animated stuff. It's made me add a few more animated stuff from my childhood, including season 2 of Pokemon. I'll see you guys next time for other videos, and hopefully my rendering stuff out with Batman, because the latest episode is actually going to be lower quality because it took a day to render out that. I mean, not literally a full day to render out the episode, but basically it failed so many times. I lost count, just freezing, crashing, blah blah blah, that eventually I had to reduce the quality to that. But you'll see that Monday. So yeah, I'll see you guys another time. Peace out, Girl Scouts.